Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Maybe to commemorate some certain events that happened in England not too long ago, or rather in Great Britain, we are looking at a British ship today. And this is the Incomparable. It's not incomparable, it's incomparable. The Incomparable would have been sort of the culmination of Sea Lord Fisher's idea that battle cruisers were a good thing, and they needed two things: speed and really, really big guns. Fisher was not a great fan of armor on these things. He preferred having them to be quick and to have a lot of firepower, and then the actual battleships to do the armory bit. His whole concept of this whole concept effectively meant that he would have created really, really large ships. I mean, this thing would have been absolutely massive for the time being, mostly because you needed somewhere to put all those engines, because this is a 1915 design, First World War. And the engines were not quite as advanced as they were later on, so you really needed a lot of ship to fit them all in to make these speeds happen, and you needed something extremely long and extremely thin. And in combination with the slightly ridiculous the ridiculous firepower that were supposed to be on these things, these were supposed to be 20-inch guns, or 508 millimeter in caliber. Yes, that's Shikishima territory. And that wasn't going to work either, because they have tried 18-inch guns on, I believe it was the Furious, one of his really, really big light cruisers, which had no armor, but was supposed to have really big guns. And that did not work very well, because even though that didn't happen, and then I think the guns were installed on a monitor afterwards, there were still problems where the guns firing would actually structurally damage the ship they were installed on. Because it turns out, if you don't put all that much into structural and armor, then the forces, the physical forces from firing those guns was actually quite damaging to things. Plus, then Jutland happened, and his battle cruisers just exploded when being looked at funny, and then everybody gave up on the idea and built the Hood, which was sort of more a fast battleship-ish thing. At least it was much better armored than the things that Fisher had in mind. So yeah, Incomparable never happened, but definitely the idea was there. So what do we have? We've got a monstrosity of a ship. I mean, look at the thing. Let's look at the Conqueror and the Thunderer. These things aren't small, but that thing is bigger. That is a huge ship. It is very slim. And let's have a quick look at the comparison. Probably the first thing that everyone's waiting for is to compare it to the Shikishima, because we want to see the guns. Now, the Comparable has all the skills. We have Def AA 2, Precise Aim 3, and we have 3 charges of sonar and 2 scout planes. These are the 12% range extension scout planes. The Shikishima is significantly better armored. And yes, I mean, it could have been worse, honestly. I was expecting worse. I was expecting Constellation level of armor on this thing. But Wargaming's been very generous with Fisher's idea, because I don't think he wanted to have any armor on these. These things would have probably been penetrated by light cruiser guns if they were to exist. She is fast, though, the Incomparable, with a pretty good time to full speed as well. And here are the guns. 6 508mm guns in 3 twin turrets, 22-second base reload, a very, very short range with 13 kilometers, and 3086 AP damage. These are the most powerful guns in the game. Shikishima is no longer having the most powerful guns in the game. These things hit harder. Interestingly enough, not on the HE, but they do have a pretty good fire chance as well. But yeah, 3000 base damage, 350% citadel bonus. You can imagine what's happening. And a very comfortable 6 degrees per second turn speed on these things. The secondaries are crap. They're only 102 millimeters, so these are basically dual-purpose AA guns that we're using here. There's a decent amount of them, but they don't do an awful lot of damage, and yeah, just it's not very much to say about them really. If you're finding you can use them. You know, if you find something in range, use them, but it's not an awful lot. In return, this thing has torpedo tubes, and I would like you to keep a bit of an eye on the torpedo range, because these torpedoes, and I'm not sure where's the bug here, because it says here that these are 2 quad launches, and in practice you get, if you fire, these are single fire torpedoes, and I think it doesn't actually say, yeah, it doesn't say in the ship specialty. It should have. But these are single fire torpedoes. So if you fire the spread, you get 4. If you fire a single, you get a mysterious extra torpedo from somewhere. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure that'll be patched at some point. And these things have a 9.9 kilometer range. They do a pretty respectable amount of damage as well. The AA is a bit meh, but then again, you do have the Def AA2, which doubles each of these values, which still means in tier 10 she's not going to be able to defend herself on her own from carrier strikes, but she can definitely make the carrier hurt, and in combination with other ships play the AA role quite well. Now remember when I asked you to remember the torpedo range, and actually you can still see it up there, it's 9.9 kilometers. Look at the concealment on this thing. The base surface detection is 8.8 kilometers. So yeah. We'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's compare her to the Thundra, as the Thundra is the other slightly older tier 10 premium here. And she's got better precise aim than the Thundra, she's got better Def AA than the Thundra, and she's got more Hydro than the Thundra. And she also gets the additional heal, by the way. And she also gets the scout planes. But yeah, even the Thundra is better armored than this thing and has more hit points. Then again, once again, it could have been worse. I think it could have been worse. But this is not a ship that enjoys getting shot at all, which has implications. And yes, the Thunder's gimmick is that she is extremely maneuverable, which is not quite the point for the Incomparable. And obviously the Thundra has a range that's actually workable, although the Incomparable does have the scout plane, and with the scout plane she actually outranges the Thundra. So twice in a battle for a couple of seconds you actually get a decent range on this thing. But yeah, these 508mm guns are pretty hefty, and yeah, obviously the secondaries on the Thundra are better. And but the Thundra does not get any torpedoes, and obviously does not get that hilarious concealment. So this sort of leads us to the build, and I think there are 2 builds here. But maybe before we discuss the builds, let's have a very quick word about the niche that this ship occupies. And I would say, I haven't watched Sly 47's review on this thing. I'm pretty sure he's done one by now. But if he had that in a tier maker somewhere, it would probably be somewhere in the niche. If I had to guess, that's where he would probably put it. Because this ship can work extremely well, but the situation has to be right. So you can, this is a battle cruiser. This is a relatively lightly armored, low hit points battle cruiser. This is a British version of the Odin, sort of, with more of a main gun focus. You can do enormous amounts of damage, but only in certain situations. In standard situations, you'll be really troubled to. She can be a bit frustrating in that regard. So why am I mentioning this? Because there are technically sort of 2 builds I could imagine. This is the one I ended up playing. Now, observe slot 3, the concealment system mod. Yes, because you have cruiser concealment, you might as well make it even better. And yes, you can theoretically stealth torpedo in this thing. The alternative would be the more traditional setup, and to go for, say, dispersion and steering gear mode, because this also plays together with the captain skills. I'm using reload because we only have 6 guns, and while they are pretty precise at long hitting, the one problem that these guns are having, and I think that is actually historically relatively accurate, is that even though these guns didn't exist, but similar guns had similar characteristics, is that they're a bit floaty. The shells take a little bit of time. They don't have the highest shell velocity because it probably would have just ripped the barrels apart, and it takes these shells a bit of time to get on target, and that means if you're shooting at smaller targets at long range, you're probably going to get 1 or 2 shells on target, which is good unless you have something that's sitting still. But anything besides battleships at long ranges, you're going to have a bit of a difficulty to hit. So the precision mod is not doing an awful lot of difference, because look at this. This is 7% on dispersion. Right? If you look at the ship skill, you can decrease the target ellipses by half almost. So no, these 7% are not going to make a huge impact as long as you have these skills up, which means you can build this thing for you can do a firepower build and just use the guns. And because the guns are so glorious, this is sort of what I've gone with. Also, I get bored easily, and in this case, you would use obviously you would use the artillery maintenance, but you would also use the fire supremacy and the marksman skill, because with the marksman skill, you can comfortably get 2 salvos out while the precise aim is active, and that's a 45% improvement of your precision. With the fire supremacy, you get an additional precise aim. So that is the precision build, the gunfire build. Alternatively, you want to do more of the hit and run build, and you would build for you would use the survivalist, and you would use the fully prepared skill for faster cooldown, because you have 4 heals instead of 3. So this allows you to use them more frequently, and the survivalist to get more. And you would obviously then also use premium repair kits. Please note, this is my usual testing setup. I do not use the APCS skill, because getting to APCS is a significant involvement of XP and training, and not everybody has that, especially not somebody who hasn't just ground a British battleship captain all the way to tier 10 and then some. So not everyone has these, which is why I usually don't include them, which you notice. So from what I've seen, the APCS on these guns makes them absolutely hilarious as well, and I will do a follow-up video on that thing. But the alternative would be, and I've really been shifting here between steering and concealment, because if you build it for a firepower build like this and not for an ambush build, then it allows you to play a bit more in most battles. See, the problem is even with this setup. If we look at the concealment on this thing, it's 7.9 kilometers. Yes, that is hilariously good for a battleship. If there's a carrier in play, it doesn't matter, most likely, because the carrier will spot you regardless. Destroyers are still outspotting you, and it feels like it's useful, and it is useful, but it is very situational. It is useful to get into position without being spotted. It can help you being spotted a little bit later, but once you are spotted and once you are starting to use your guns, it makes no difference. It can help you getting to disengage by simply stop firing your guns for a while. But then again, where's the fun in that? So it takes a specific mindset and a specific setup to sort of make that happen. The alternative, like I've said, is to play like this. Now, you could, if you had, let's say, Jellicoe as a legendary commander, and I don't think any of the legendary commanders has the improved APCS, which is what you would want to use here. But you could use the additional survivalist and the fully prepared, which gives you a 20% repair kit cooldown, and then use the premium heals on this thing. And that means the armor is not as bad as it seems. So you would be able to do HP tanking basically. You still take huge amounts of damage, but you have the capability of going dark, if provided there's no carrier that keeps you spotted, and you would have like an enormous amount of HP coming back in again from these skills. So this would just extend your survivability by quite a bit. But like I said, when I'm testing these ships, not everybody has a legendary commander with a 12 point captain. So I do assume that most people play with historical camo on, because it's a tier 10. And this is probably something that's a little bit more common. If you've already spent money to get this ship, you probably get the camo as well. The camo is nothing surprising here. It gives us range, which is sorely needed. It gives us hit points, which is also sorely needed. And it gives us better dispersion, which is also nice. So, yeah. Like I mentioned, I will do another video with a fully decked out version, just a maxed video, just to show you, what kind of difference it makes if you have this kind of setup available. But this is kind of my standard setup for testing. Anyway, what have we not looked at? The elite bonus. You can get traverse speed. Honestly, I don't think you need it, because the guns have a 6 degree per second. If you feel that the guns are too sluggish on the traverse, you could just use the traverse module instead of the reload module. You can, even without the reload module, you can still get two salvos off while the precise aim is active, provided you have the commander skill. Without the commander skill, you got to be really, really on time, and the slightest lag means that you're not going to get the second salvo off while the precise aim is active, which is annoying. I have stuck with the elite gun operator because it also gives us traverse speed, and it reduces the reload time. So with all of that said, we are now at a 14.4 second turn time, which is longer than I would like, but it is what it is. But look at she's got a time to full speed of 14 seconds. That is pretty good, because effectively the whole ship's more or less one big engine. And the gun reload is at 20 seconds. Just over 20 seconds, with a 6.4 degrees turret traverse, which is pretty good. And we've got a 7.9 kilometer concealment, which is also pretty good. So let's have a look at some games, and just keep in mind the setup, and I'll talk a bit more about the situationality and why I think this is more of a sort of niche ship than a general purpose ship that will make you happy and win in every single battle. In the first battle, we are playing Epicenter. And we got lucky here, because this is a bot carrier that we're up against, not a real carrier. Because if it was a real carriers can do a lot of damage to this ship very, very quickly. But it's a 5v5, and we're fighting Yamato, Republik, Pommern, Shimakaze, and Hayate. Now, the other problem that you sort of have in this ship is that she's not particularly great against destroyers. Now, given if they're holding still or running into your torpedoes, then yes, you do have the sonar, which is quite useful to just detect incoming torpedoes. And here's why I'm sort of sticking with the concealment build over the maneuverability build. Because as nice as it would have been to have a faster rudder shift, this allows me to get into position. For example, in Epicenter, I would like to get into position behind that island there, for starters, because island cover is great. Island cover is something that can compensate for your lack of armor quite a bit. And also Epicenter mode generally means that the range is not so much of an issue, because you have to play in uncomfortably close range. Now, here's a bit of a caveat. I'm testing on the agent server, which means that a lot of games you have Christopher Colombo, a Yama, and or two Yamas, and a whole bunch of Shimakazes coming in. And none of these things you're particularly effective against, because the first set outranges you and the second set outspots you. But in this case, they sort of have to come close. And there's already incoming fire. from something over there. I think it was the Republik. So that's and yeah, the Pommern is shooting at me as well. So definitely want to be backing off a little bit here, because as you can see, they're chunking away your hit points very, very quickly. You want to use the heal very early, the first heal, especially if you're not building for a tank build. So with the faster heals. But you can use the scout plane, and you should, as long as you have targets that are spotted. Unfortunately, the angles are a little bit meh, so most of them goes into the belt. And without the APCS at this range, even the Republik's belt is happily going to bounce these 20-inch shells. So you do need to aim definitely more for the deck here, and make sure that at the same time you are avoiding incoming fire as much as possible. Now, that's sort of where the excellent acceleration of this thing comes in, because if you need to play out in the open, and yes, there come some Shima torps, I've seen those. If you need to play in the open, I can't shoot the Republik because the Republik's out of range already. But if you need to play out in the open, you can use your acceleration sort of. You don't have an engine boost, but you can still sort of use it to kind of try and dodge incoming fire. And so, fortunately for me, the Pommern this is epicenter, so the enemy team has to come to us and cannot just stay at their maximum range and just snipe you out of the water from there, while the destroyers or the carriers are keeping you spotted. So that Pommern is, and yeah, they're still shooting at me, but having trouble hitting me actually, because I'm not sitting still, broadside on somewhere. I see you there, Hayate. And there come the Hayate torps. Okay, so not aimed at me. Pommern is stationary. Shots out at the Pommern. And we'll just use some there goes the Pommern. We just use some general purpose area denial torpedoes while we are still being pummeled from the other side. Just in case the Hayate wants to come back here for some fun. But you see, the reason why I'm sometimes struggling with using the concealment mod is that, as you noticed, for most of this battle, I have not been undetected. I have been very much detected because I keep firing my guns, because that's what they're there for. Also, there are destroyers and there's a carrier in the game. So yeah, make use of the 4 heals, definitely. And I prefer to play the ship a bit more maneuverable, because it is a battle cruiser. That's what these things are for. So shots out at the Republik, change your course, change your speed, and just throw their aim off in general. Oh, there are some shots coming in from the right. That is Republik and Yamato. Definitely something I want to avoid. So now it's time to run away again and get out of their range. Usually, I wouldn't be able to fire at the Yamato, because the Yamato would literally just outrange me by 3 kilometers, and I would be hard pressed to actually get in range of that thing without being hammered by the enemy team. Because if it's not epicenter and it's just camping, then everybody is just pretty much going to go and say, yeah, sure, you go first then if you want to be in range. We'll stay right here at the back of the map and wait for something to wait for half a minute to shoot our guns again. But playing mobile like this in something like epicenter works pretty well. And keeping an eye on torpedoes. And I really want that Republik dead. Is he stationary? I think he is. He has stopped again. And we get another set of shots out. One of the really useful legendary commanders also would be... There we go. And that's a Citadel for 9,000 damage. Almost got him, but not quite. So we're going to have to vacate this position, because that Republik can kill us very easily, and so can the Yamato. And there comes some torpedoes. Okay, Republik is dead. Colombo has taken him out. But... it works if you have island cover, and if you can play, and I prefer the mobile play over the stationary play. So if you want to play the ship on a server that is generally pretty campy, or you generally prefer a more campy play style, not quite. As you can see, again, this only works, and this Yamato is only in range because because of epicenter, because usually the Yamato would be a lot further back. Okay, there comes some airdrop torpedoes, and there's not an awful lot I can do about that. That was actually a bot carrier, and there comes the Yamato as well. So I've got 6,000 health remaining, but we've got this on points. So at this point, it's just fun. And I have to dodge the incoming Hayate torps, potentially incoming Hayate torps. We'll just drop some torpedoes of our own in his direction. And while I would have loved to farm the bot carrier here, I am going to try and duke some of the Yamato shots. Because again, even with the concealment module, I wouldn't have a chance to go undetected, even if I wasn't firing my guns, because the Hayate is still in range. And that thing will just keep me spotted. So now I'm just farming a little bit more damage on the Yamato. See if we can make him overshoot. And there come the Hayate torpedoes. They're not aimed at me. There come the Yamato shots. 271. Oh, I got a torpedo in on the Hayate. Last salvo. And even with the heal coming on, I think the Yamato is just going to... Yeah. It's just going to take me out. 2 hits was all it took from the Yamato. But I think that is enough points-wise. Yeah, it's way enough points-wise that we can make this. So... if you get these sort of scenarios and you enjoy this kind of playstyle where you can be mobile, but you have to be playing within the enemy firing range, and if they focus you down, you go down very, very quickly. And if there's a carrier in play, then this severely restricts the amount of things that you can do in that regard. So let's I'm not understanding. Okay, the Colombo got 1 more kill, so okay. So what? Why am I not getting that? But it's a Christopher Colombo. Of course it gets it. So let's play that once more. And in the second game, we are playing Domination on Crash Zone. We're up against Großer Kurfürst, Yamato, another Kurfürst, very unusual, Smolensk, and Marceau and double Black Shima. Okay then, we'll do it. Now, here again in the opening stages is where the concealment comes in, and where you can get yourself into a position that is somewhat defensible, because you want to not be spotted early as much as possible. So I'm going to probably head over to A Cup and see what we can do from over there. I've got Khabarovsk with me. Who else? There's another battleship next to me. It's a Yamato. Okay. So Yamato is probably going to be relatively conservative. And I want to be behind that island there. Because that island that I'm steering towards means that from that position, I can make use of my range, my relatively limited range. And I can also use it to a degree to shield myself from incoming fire if need be. So... don't be tempted to just try and torpedo rush things. That you can do this if the targets are isolated. But in any other case, that is if there's crossfire or if there's more than one. Kaba, where are you going? Then, okay, we've got something in A. That's going to be the Marceau, because he's the fastest of the bunch. There is a battleship over there. So let's get the scout plane up. And he goes undetected. Dang it! That's alright, we've got a Yamato to shoot at, and that Yamato is probably relatively stationary because it's a Yamato, and it's gonna be sitting back there. So as soon as I fire my guns, I'm obviously spotted, but I would have been spotted by the Marceau in any second anyway. And now I've got counter battery fire coming in, and there's a suspicious smoke screen that starts HE spamming me, so, well, that would be the Smolensk, which means I can't reverse out of here. I have to get the island between myself and Smolensk while healing out the first fire. And just make sure, because Smolensk is not going to have the elevation to shoot me, and I'm still coming under fire from the Kurfürst, but at this range, Kurfürst, not too scared of it. The Yamato, on the other hand, is a bigger problem. But like I said, the armor, is that high explosive? Yes, that Yamato is firing high explosive at me. Okay, you do you, buddy. Alright, let's drop some torpedoes, just in case the Großer Kurfürst is pushing. But he might be aware that I have torpedoes. I'm not sure if he is, but he knows that there's a Khabarovsk out there as well. So maybe he's not brave. But in case he is, then he's going to run into my torpedoes. And I am still coming under fire from... Is that the Smolensk shooting at me again? Not sure. Maybe the Yamato is still shooting high explosive at me. There comes the whatever that is from the Großer Kurfürst. And yep, ow, that hurt. Could have been worse, but... burn through your heels. Okay, let's get the torpedoes off again into the capture circle. Maybe we'll hit something. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the island to go undetected, and I'm going to change position. And this is because there's no reason. Yeah, the Marceau has just taken out the Khabarovsk. There's no reason for me to be where everyone's shooting at me. Let's see if we can get ourselves into a flanking position, because B cap is empty, and the only enemy battleship on the other side of the map is duking it out with the other half of my team. So I want that Smolensk, and the best way to get a Smolensk is to surprise the Smolensk, precise aim up. Unfortunately, the rear guns don't make it across, so only 3 hits, but that has taken down the Smolensk to pretty much half health. And now obviously the Smolensk is smoking up. The thing is, just because you're in a smoke screen doesn't mean that you're invulnerable, and the Yamato is shooting at me, but he's still firing high explosives, so it's not a massive threat. And I think that's roundabout where the Smolensk was. Yeah, the definite the definite word here to use was, because the Smolensk is no longer there, because I literally just blew him clean out of the water. I have to admit that was extremely satisfying. So now I'm at the edge of my range though, so I am going to have to turn around. But with the Smolensk gone, the Yamato is now deciding that he wants to push. By the way, if the Yamato had fired armor piercing, I would probably be dead already by now, because I've taken 2 or 3 salvos from that Yamato. And if he didn't make questionable choices in terms of ammunition, then I probably would have died already. So, to a degree, the enemy team needs to let you get away with these things, is what I'm saying. Okay, there comes... Oh, he switched to armor piercing. Okay, yep. That's what happens when the Yamato switches to armor piercing. Now, I want to get within 9.9 kilometer range, because that means I can use my torpedoes. And I'm going to put them on single fire. Unfortunately, there's an island just between me and where that Yamato is backing off to. So I'm going to have to hold and wait and see what he's doing. And he is going forward, I believe. So there comes another salvo. It takes off one of my front turrets. We're gonna repair that. And now we're going to put her in reverse and just shoot the Yamato a little bit more, because I mean he's the last ship alive. I just want to see if I can get the torpedoes off on him. And I think he's backing off now, so I'm gonna knife the torpedoes straight past that island and see if they can hit him in reverse. And yep, Yamato shells on this thing are not fun at all, and you really need to watch your positioning. But that looks like he might be running into my torpedoes, so even if he gets me, then I might still be able to get a little bit of damage. Yeah, I'm on 5,000 health. That salvo is going to get me. Yep, there we go. There's no way I could avoid that, but I still got the 5 torpedoes on target. Still made it across the 100,000. But you see what I mean, right? It is a somewhat niche ship in terms of its playstyle and in terms of the situations that you can use it. She's not very good against destroyers. If you are in a situation where you need to, where the enemy team is not obliging and getting into your firing range, then you can actually have a pretty darn hard time to take them out. If you're up against a carrier and the carrier decides to focus you down or keep you spotted for the enemy team, it very much immobilizes you in a hidden spot somewhere, because you can't tank anything, and armor piercing bombs from German carriers will wreak absolute havoc on this thing. So it's a good ship, don't get me wrong. This is a good ship. This is a fun ship to play, and has potential to absolutely do monstrous amount of damage. But it is a ship that the enemy team has to let you play in a mobile style, in a flanking style, and I enjoy that. And this is a ship that I personally would get. But just be aware that it's not a classic battleship. It's not a ship that you can sit in one spot and just try to snipe the enemy team from there. That's not what this thing is for. It's a mobile ship. It's a battle cruiser. It's a and it's a very squishy one at that. So it's still quite glorious to have the biggest guns in the game and to be able to, I would have never been able to delete that Smolensk if he hadn't decided to sit still broadside on in his smokescreen and show me with his tracers where exactly he was sitting, that sort of thing. So that's it. That's the Incomparable, the tier 10, extremely heavily armed battlecruiser. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.